Hello and welcome to ThisConnect. We're starting from an idea that we explored a little bit of a couple of podcasts ago, I think, where we were talking about how to buy new vehicles and bring them home. And we just started on what accessories we think are essential and what is a waste of time, and we'd stopped there.
Saying that we would discuss it again later.
And
Here
we are.
Yeah.
If you were to go into an average car or motorcycle showroom today, actually it's a car thing more than a motorcycle thing because the showrooms for bikes are not equipped well today, I think. How much of what they sell you as factory fitted accessories or dealer fitted accessories is just complete BS?
There are a couple of really interesting options that keep coming up again and again, like rust coating. I love that one. Whenever
So
somebody
they coat your car in rust.
Good one. Don't give people ideas. There's everybody waiting to make a buck. And what's the line? There's a fool for everything. Something.
Yeah.
Anyways, so anti-rust coating for the underbody. I think that was a very popular option that people exercised.
Hindustan ambassador and Premier Padmini days.
And it still goes on today. People will call and ask, do I need that? And you're like, nope, you don't need it. not unless you're planning. I mean, if you plan to go and drown it somewhere, then nothing's going to help. So just stick with what you have.
Or unless you're planning to keep the car for the next 600 or 700 years or something like that.
Then maybe the rust coating will survive. Yeah.
So the rust coating is still there. The car would have disappeared.
Car might have gone. If it's done
why is the
really
rust
well.
coating not required? What's the technical reason for it?
Because the vehicles that come out of the factory now are treated, the underbodies are treated for
How do they do this?
abrasion. It's a coating that's applied.
Don't they dip the car into the thing itself?
So that's those are the earlier layers of the coat. So the metal itself is under so many layers, right? Primer, rust treatment to be specific, and then the several coats of paint. So there's far more protection for the metal, which will rust otherwise. And the metal itself is of a much higher grade now, right? Compared to what you would get earlier, far more consistent. So I think a lot of it is just...
So the rust coating is not required. Is the rubber coating thing still a thing?
What is this? Tell me.
There used to be, I think there was a time when they were, spraying the car with some sort of a rubber solution. So you'd get this black sticky coating on the underneath.
Yeah. So that's one of the more aggressive versions of the anti-rust treatment. Yeah.
You know the fundamental problem here? It's not that the fact that a dealer is trying to offer you rust coating or rubber coating or this nonsense, right? It's how worried are you about your purchase that you're trying to insure it. While the manufacturer's already insured it by dipping it into 1,000 liquids before they paint the car.
This is the key problem, I think, when people buy a vehicle. Like I think we discussed in one of the earlier podcasts, where if you have 30 lakh rupees, don't spend 40.
Yeah.
Right? Buy something for 25, 26, 27. Keep that money aside so you don't have to worry about the car or the bike, right? Which I think invariably people are like, I got 30 lakh rupees, but I think I'll buy the 40 lakh rupee vehicle. And you're like, yes. Problem number one starts right there.
I think MasterCard and Visa just joined the chat.
Yeah.
Because people who spend beyond their means, they're like kings. Okay, let's focus. What are the coatings are obviously useless. So any coating that is being offered to you in a showroom, chances are it will be completely useless.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about polishes, I think there is a case to be made in some cases. Like I think if I were buying a Maruti today, for instance, like the Swift or the Alto, I would want to get a polish of some sort on it, a harder surface, like whether it's either Teflon or ceramic coat or a PPF. Because what I've found is in that case, they tend to get scuffed a little bit easily. It's not that it's getting scratched, but it does tend to lose its sheen a little faster than I would have liked.
It's a Maruti thing? You specifically brought up Maruti as an example?
Yeah, because I think I've seen it in Marutis happening easily. So there I would want that extra protection there so that initial gloss is locked in, right? So then after that, I'm not worried about that new car luster,
Got it.
And a lot of other vehicles, and paint quality does vary a lot. Like, Tata's do a great job of getting the...
Okay, so let's get it out there. Who are the manufacturers you think don't do paint quality at the level where you think that a coating or a polish of some sort when the car is brand new will help?
Yeah, so for me right now, the one that stands out is Maruti, right? And not all the models, right?
Okay.
Some of the models that we've seen this. Like, I didn't notice this with the Grand Vitara when we drove it. Right. But I did notice it with the Swift, the way the shoulder line is and the way the rear door handles are. You end up interacting with the body a lot more over there, typically because the door handles
Understood.
For the rear doors are up there.
So it's more a design issue than a manufacturing issue in that sense.
It is a design aspect as well, but it's also somehow, I'm not entirely convinced that is as resilient as other paint finishes.
No, I'm only exploring this a little bit further because I'm thinking about the production process. And I'm assuming that the paint shops are all automated now.
Yeah.
And chances are that the Vitara's panels and the Alto's panels and the Desire's panels or whatever go through the same sort of section of the factory using the same grade of paint, although the colors will vary and metallic to non-metallic will vary. But do you actually think the manufacturer will specify a lower grade of metallic/non-metallic for a much cheaper car?
There could be number of processes that it goes through.
Okay.
Right? It could be materials, right? The time taken to do a particular process.
Oh yeah, they might be rushing the smaller cars because the volumes are larger and the Grand Vitara
could just be... I'm no expert on paint technology, but I think there is a palpable difference between the two cars side by side.
Got it. Okay, I have stuff to add on the bike front right here. If your bike is plastic panels with water-based paint, and almost everything is water-based paint now, they will scuff easier. And remember, unlike a car where you are inside but the car is outside, you are on top of the motorcycle and your jeans and belt, buckles and all of this stuff interacts quite a bit with the car,
right?
With the bike. And that means that you will scuff motorcycles faster. The solution may not be to coat the whole thing immediately, right? In the case of the expensive motorcycles where replacement parts are very expensive, there is a worthwhile reason for you to invest in something like that. I, of course, like to do things in the extremes. So instead of doing something like PPF, which is relatively cheap, or a polish, which is cheap, I would go straight to ceramic lacquer, which is very expensive. But then for the next, 8 years, that thing will look more or less brand new with like the minimum of care. But then to me, instead of spending, say, 3,000 rupees now, I spend 25,000 rupees now, but it's done. Which as a component of a 20 lakh rupee bike, it's insignificant.
Right.
Would I do the same for a KTM though? No, a KTM new tank cover would cost, 2,000 bucks.
Yeah.
So why would I ceramic coat it for 8,000 bucks?
All the panels actually might be in that much.
We almost did that. When we restored the KTM, we almost got entirely new body panels, like top to bottom. And I don't remember it being an expense that I raised an eyebrow at.
Right.
It's just that the white sticker was beginning to become harder to find. So we did ceramic lacquer coated just to protect it from fading and peeling. So that if I didn't find the white sticker again, it wasn't a big issue. That's the reason why we did that. Because remember, the KTMs became black after that. Right. It became a little bit harder to source that part. So coming out of the showroom, I would not really do much. On a motorcycle, I would worry about the grip, which is how my knees sit against the tank. And if that is a slippery area, and it will be slippery when new because they polish. There was one, when I brought the Street Triple.
When you bought it?
When I brought it home that day. There was a guy with a can of spray wax. And he was walking up and down. And it was like watching that Tom Cruise film where he keeps forgetting and resetting.
Oh, yeah.
The future film where he goes and does something and then it resets. The spray guy was like that. He'd walk past the Street Triple and then he'd say, oh, this bike is ready for delivery. He'd put wax on it and he'd sort of wipe the bike down. So bike becomes glossy. Then he'd go to the other end of the showroom, walk past, and then he'd say, oh, this Street Triple is ready for delivery, and spray it some more. And I watched it happen like 6 or 7 times before I was like, oh my God.
So you didn't pay for it, but you got anti-rust protection.
I got so much wax, I practically slid off the bike when I came out of the showroom. But outside of that, how you grip your motorcycle to me changes how you interact with it. So I would immediately want a set of grip pads where at least my knees touch the motorcycle. Not to protect the paint as much as to improve my experience of riding the motorcycle. The belt buckle area is always a struggle. Now, I never wear belts on the motorcycle. I'm always in riding gear. But even then, the zippers will touch the tank and over time scuff it a little bit. My cheap solution. KTM used to sell abrasion pads. They're 3M clear plastic pieces. And they're dirt cheap and they appear in 3 shapes, I think. So I would just buy like a stack of those. And Zubin would actually take stuff from me And where, for example, when I was using strap tank bags, I'd just have one piece of that clear tape there. So when the tank bag webbing is rubbing, it's rubbing on the plastic and not on my paint. And therefore, I'd put a larger strip in front of my belt buckle. I'm not a fan of like that 3D thing in front of
designs and all of that.
Not my scene.
Okay. So how many of these would you typically need to do up that section? Like on
the KTM, I had one large panel. That's it. When I was using strap tank bags,
very cost effective as well, I'm guessing.
It was I don't remember the prices, but I think it was 60 rupees each or 100 rupees each or something dirt cheap like that.
So like when I got the tank protector for the Busa, that cost maybe 3,000.
Yeah.
Which was...
If you go to fancy, it would.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Like on the Multistrada, the tank slopes away from me quite a bit and you sit upright. So I haven't bothered at all because I know that I'm not going to touch.
And my only thought with the tank protector was that it's great. It's covering a critical area. Like typically like where you're saying where the belt would be and all.
Yeah.
But I end up riding with the 4-season jacket, which is bulky.
Right.
So when I'm leaned over, invariably, I'm getting contact between the jacket and the tank way past the...
Yeah, exactly.
Could just be my belly also. But yeah, it's there's lots more area where the jacket is coming in contact with the tank.
Exactly. So these are the kind of things that I would worry about coming out of the showroom. Most showrooms will not be super careful about checking tire pressures. So maybe I want to bring my own tire gauge. And my first experience of the bike is not ruined by the fact that they've probably overinflated the tires. Remember, when they seat the bead in the factory, have they deflated down to stock or not? I'm not so sure. You know, so outside of that, whatever the showroom is selling, do they have the best helmets? Never.
So do you have any tips for where to get like the friction pads?
So in my experience on the bigger bikes, it's really difficult because the glue that they use is heat activated and the bikes run hot here, so they peel off and fly off. And I've had lots of Storm Grips, which is the known brand, fly off. I've never tried Tech-Spec, but Zubin has a guy who is like a local boy who will have certain shapes in stock. And then he can also measure your thing out and he laser cuts them out of this slightly thicker rubber pad.
So not a solution for everybody across the country.
No, reach out to Zubin. He will figure it out for you. It's 1,000 rupees a set, so it's not even an expensive. But it's lasted the longest I've ever had anything last here. The really cheap solution, which I also love, is it's called PEVA shower tape.
I've tried it.
Okay, it's meant to go on your bathroom floor to give you grip. So the glue is waterproof, and they are what? I think $500 a roll, and the roll is I think 30 feet or something like that. Knock yourself out, cut patterns, put it on your tank, works aces. Don't cut sharp corners because that gets caught in fabric and gets peeled off. They will peel off in time, but they're so cheap that you can just replace them. I've been using them on my KTM and my Tuono forever.
This was supposed to be our accessories. We've gone to DIY.
It is an accessory. At the end of the day, it improves your grip. The only caveat is on Amazon, when you're looking for this tape, there are certain tapes that look exactly like sandpaper. Those you want to avoid because they actually work like sandpaper and they'll rip your gear apart.
Oh my God.
I've had that happen to my leathers on the Tuono once. What you're looking for is what looks like textured plastic, not sandpaper. The textured plastic
the sharper
stuff,
ones. Oh, I get what you're talking about.
The textured plastic one appears in grey, black and transparent and they all work. So.
Okay.
But from the showroom, two-wheeler showroom is actually easy. They offer you nothing.
Well, now some do.
What did you get at KTM?
Royal Enfield.
Leave Royal Enfield for a minute because
Dominar
there was a
now.
time when Royal Enfield, all they had really was to give you was accessories because there was no real tech in the bike itself and they've changed recently. We leave Royal Enfield as the exception to this. You go to a Bajaj showroom today, a KTM showroom today, Suzuki, Yamaha, what would you get?
Nothing.
Like Big Wing at least has some Rhinox branded gear now.
I know one thing that people have to think about. It's not an accessory. But when you're buying your bike, and that's one thing that you have to do at the showroom, opt for zero dep. Opt for zero dep. Don't cheap out on that. Get zero dep. Yeah.
Zero dep is zero depreciation. And what it means is for the year that you paid the zero depreciation add-on for. So it's not part of your insurance. You add it on top of your insurance. It's not expensive. Okay, on a average bike, it's 600, 700 rupees. On a big bike, it's I think $2,500 or something silly like that.
It's ridiculous what the delta is.
And what it basically says is all depreciation costs will be compensated for, which means, for example, let's say they say plastic depreciates at 50% a year, which means when you crash your bike, metal parts will be replaced at cost. Plastic parts will be replaced at 50% of cost. The zero depreciation cover gives you that money back. So if you have the option of adding zero dep to a new bike, and you always do, I think it lasts 5 years, get zero depreciation cover. Technically, you're not buying it from the showroom, but you are buying it through the showroom. The showrooms don't have much. Exceptions are, as you said, Royal Enfield, which has a large range of motorcycle accessories, motorcycle gear, and casual wear. It's a nice
and luggage,
range.
luggage as well now, right?
Luggage also.
Yeah.
So it's got a fairly decent range. I'm not sure that all of the functional bits are as well designed as the aftermarket is able to do yet, but they're on a very, very sharp curve, so they'll get there. And Big Wing has Rhinox branded Honda gear, which you can buy. We know Rhinox makes reasonably good quality stuff, so you should be able to pick them up right there. If you don't want a big Honda badge on the back, the same jacket without the Honda badge will be available at Rhinox.
All right.
All of the other manufacturers haven't got the handle on this yet. I think TVS started selling gear too, but they haven't pushed it very hard. So I know that they worked on their own armor and got it certified. So they're serious about it.
No kidding. You know, I watched this video recently where there was a comparison between 3 vehicles and 3 scooters, and there was a TVS is safe, right? That was my takeaway from that video. Yeah, makes sense what they're doing, going slow and steady. Yeah, you were saying?
He is so clever. I love him. Yeah, but it's true. They are working on gear. I don't know why they're not more aggressive about it. Like Royal Enfield is very vocally and visibly making riding gear. TVS is making riding gear, but they're not very vocal about it. So it's can I recommend you a TVS jacket? Specs look okay. Have I ever seen one in real life in use? Have I used it? Do I know how it feels like? Honestly, no. So, okay, but let's talk about cars where there are actually...
No, wait. Sorry. Because I really want to... luggage, crash protection, especially when talking about ADVs, right? Because nowadays when I'm going around and I'm seeing bikes, those GS memes, they seem to be coming live on Dominars and Himalayans.
No, I think you have it misunderstood.
Oh, sorry.
Those pipes
I apologize.
Are not supposed to be empty, and that's the part that most people forget. You put a tap at the bottom and you fill the pipe with water so that whenever you are stranded, or when you're just thirsty, there is water. And if you put it carefully, then the engine will heat the water. You can have a hot shower.
Because there's, sorry, but it does look, sometimes it does look like plumbing.
It is plumbing.
And how would you recommend somebody to go out and look at these parts or options and choose whether to go for it or not?
Okay, first of all, what you think of as rider protection when you add all of this plumbing to the motorcycle is not rider protection. It's engine case protection. And an engine case is a very tucked in part of the motorcycle, and it doesn't really need extraordinarily large bars to protect it. The really large guards come from stunting people who are constantly dropping their bikes. And they build cages around their engine so they can keep dropping it, picking it up and riding, knowing that only the levers will snap off and minor issues, but the bike fundamentally is protected. First of all, that's not going to be your experience. And if you add 17 kilos of plumbing to your bike, with or without water, you're going to be carrying that thing around, which means your performance and economy both have gone for a toss. How much protection do you really need? Okay. I've ridden most of the motorcycles that I've ever ridden without any at all. I find that motorcycles actually crash really well, and they take surprisingly small damage from minor crashes. When you have a major crash, usually they'll break so many things along the way that the crash protection is not really important.
But like a frame slider or something like that?
If you want to. Frame sliders primarily work in low speed slide-offs.
Right.
And I have one on my KTM. But is it something I paid attention to, obsessed over, thought about it? No. I called Josh. He built me one. And then he started selling it as JC Moto. And that was to me the end of that process.
It'll be almost 3 years this April since I got the Busa. And the first thing I wanted to do was get a frame slider. I still haven't got one.
Yeah. See, like on the Busa, there is a lot of bodywork that extends outside. Yeah. So maybe having a frame slider is a good idea. But since it's extend outside, how much does the frame slider have to leave? The bodywork is a consideration, right? When I bought the 1200 Multistrada, it's a narrow bike like this, which is very wide at the top. But that meant the frame slider was like an idiotically long thing with a long rod and the bobbin at the end. I don't know how it would work because that rod would have to be super strong to make it stay in alignment while it was falling.
You said a very interesting thing back then, which was that you said people add on all that with the idea that it will protect them.
It doesn't.
Yeah, but in my head, it is always that people are buying that so that they are protecting their motorcycle so they don't have to spend later in case of a fall.
Why are you protecting your motorcycle? It's a thing. It will survive. Whatever's broken will be fixed.
See, he hadn't thought of it that way.
You've got insurance and zero depreciation for the first 5 years and a warranty. I don't know what the stress is here.
Shumi's from another planet. He had genuinely not thought of it.
In fact, you will probably not be the person who writes back to the insurance company, says, I added the crash protection, which cost me 10 grand. Can I update my IDV value and add accessories to it to account for the fact that the crash bar is now part of the insured set of the motorcycle? So when you crash, what will actually happen is your bike might be chakachak, but you'll spend 10,000 rupees again buying the new crash bars back. And that makes no sense at all because that's less than what you paid for the insurance, the chances are.
Right.
So don't protect your motorcycle. Nothing is going to happen. They are very, very difficult to really break. And if they're going to break like that, no crash protection is really going to work.
Yeah.
The exception are really large motorcycles where you're at the edge of your budgets, where you know that a big crash is going to cost you stuff that you're not able to afford. In that event, you're trying to say, if I have a small fall, I'll be able to walk away from it with a little bit of a ding or a scratch on a crash bar. I understand the logic there. But on a motorcycle with cheap parts like a KTM or a 150cc motorcycle, crash bars, you're wasting your time, your money, you're losing performance, and you're losing economy. It's not even a zero-sum game. It's a negative-sum game. Just don't bother. There's also a study which was done in the 70s or the 80s, which said when you add leg guards, not engine cases anymore, larger guards, what they save you in injury and damage, it comes back to you in your legs as damage. No, what it saves your legs, it comes back to your neck as injuries.
Because of the shock.
Because you get trapped into the motorcycle and then your neck has a whiplash movement or whatever. Okay. Right? So there is no logical reason why the leg guards are required. There's no reason why anything but an engine case guard at best. And the engine case guard needs to literally hug the engine, nothing else. And it's not an urgent purchase.
So guys, I think the simple takeaway here from this very long discussion up till now is that keep it simple. You don't need a lot of that protection that you are keen on spending. And I get it. You want to personalize your vehicle. You want to make it individualistic.
Yes.
Which is why I think a lot of people go into the showroom and in the case of cars, when it comes to motorcycles, people are shopping online or going to other stores to get accessories. Is to personalize it. Take it easy. Get to know the motorcycle, get to know the car, and then choose what your next steps are.
Yeah.
And talking about crash guards, they used to be really popular with cars as well. You'd see that like a structure out front.
The bull bar.
Yeah. Don't do it. Cars are not designed to absorb impact. That is illegal. Now you have pedestrian impact protection, and which means that bull bar, crash guard, whatever it is, will get in the way. You're not supposed to have it. The front bumper, the grille, all of them have a little bit of give. That's for a reason, because it's supposed to absorb the energy of a small impact. And 9 or 10 times, if it's 10, 15 kilometers an hour, touch and go, that kind of stuff, nothing happens. Anything bigger than that, trust me, that bull bar is not going to help you either, because it's just going to come in, right? And importantly, instead of avoiding that impact going to the core part of the vehicle, which is where the bull bar will be attached underneath to the platform, not a great idea, because the impact is going to get transferred there, which you want to avoid for the small bumps. And
so you'll have great headlights but a bent chassis.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of accessories would you normally see in a car showroom today?
Oh, you'll have so many. Like, like you have OEM options also now. Like for your infotainment system, you want to upgrade to a touchscreen system. For low variants which don't have one, speakers, seat covers, reversing cameras. I mean, there's lots that you can go in for. Of course, the mats, mud flaps.
The mats are free, right? That's a negotiating thing that a customer will feel happy about negotiating and get mud flaps and mats for free, right? That's not actually a priced accessory.
I think it's always like, we have the habit of
Push
discount. So it's like, okay, fine. Take this.
Are the music systems so bad that you should immediately think about upgrading your music system to a...
So that does vary a bit, right? I think by and large, the standard has gone up significantly.
That's why I asked.
Where I wouldn't automatically say that, hey, I want to get new speakers or get a new infotainment system head unit, right? Functionally, they're pretty good.
And wait, if I buy a car and the dealer says, hey, you should be having this music system, and I'm like, hold on to that thought. Give me a couple of months to live with the car. And then I really become unhappy with the music system. Then I can always come back and achieve the same result, right?
Of course.
So there's no reason for them to be spending the money right there apart from the dealer's upsell.
Right.
Did you understand?
And the good thing is now with earlier, like, there'd be warranty issues when you retrofitted a music system or something like that. But when you do it from the showroom and they have direct connectors and all of that, so there's all the electricals are intact effectively. So there's less hassle. I mean, I like to play it safe. So I know that this is easy for me to say that I'd go with that because I don't want anything going wrong. But there are enough people out there who'd probably do a good job. But you have to know somebody who has the expertise and the experience to be able to nail it using other parts or upgrades that you'd be wanting to do. Right? So be it lights, like, installing fog lights or speakers, additional speakers, stuff like that. Because electricals are easy to mess up.
Yeah, and hard to undo.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Yeah, it's very hard to undo.
So I'd just be careful about that. And I do have a list of things that I would love to have on a vehicle when I get it. Right?
What is this list?
Yeah, so it's almost uncle type stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
So like the window valances, right? People call them
the rain gutter type thing.
Yeah, right. I love them, right? I don't have them on my car right now, but I mean Vanita's car, but they are terribly useful.
Okay.
Because what it does is, if you're on the highway, often you don't want to have the air conditioning on. The weather's good.
Right.
You just want to drive along, but you're traveling in 100 kilometers an hour.
Everybody who's in Mumbai is rolling their eyes at you right now. Okay. Yeah.
So you don't want to have the air conditioning on, but the second you roll down the window, it's
like a gale inside. Yeah.
What that does is, the windows, you just crack them down a bit, just at the level of that plastic piece. It creates just the right amount of gap that the air from the inside the cabin is constantly being sucked out.
Right, got it.
Right? So it's just the cabin is getting refreshed, fresh air all the time without the noise or any of the drama. I've always found that so useful and so handy. And it's such a small, simple thing.
No, and in fact, the time has moved on. So now you can get those valances, as you call them, without the word speed. Remember the Keanu Reeves? Keanu Reeves, what's his name?
Keanu Reeves.
The speed film, they all had speed written on it. Well, you can now get them unbranded. So it's really cool. What else? This is list number one.
And now you get really, like, I wouldn't want carpets, I'm losing the words right now. I don't know what's going on. Floor mats. I'm calling them carpets. So, yeah.
You wouldn't want the floor mats.
Earlier, I wouldn't want floor mats. But now you get really nice, high quality floor mats.
This is the 3D molded stuff that sort of fits in and fits exactly.
Because earlier, they would move around. They wouldn't sit properly.
Yeah.
And just feel tacky.
Oh, yeah. And the manufacturer will usually deliver the car with a brown paper or a white paper thing that says with shoes printed on it, as if you were going to get confused as to what to put there. Remove those. Ideally return those, because it's a waste of paper and they're noisy and they're sliding around while you're trying to operate the vehicle, and it's just a terrible idea. I get why they put it, because the car looks cleaner, etc., but it's just a colossal waste of paper.
Bad floor mats will be an issue for the driver, because when they move around, they can foul with the pedals. Sometimes they can go and get stuck, which is why...
Has it happened to you?
It's strange, but it has happened. Once it went and overlapped a pedal.
I've had it go up behind the pedal and roll up, and then you couldn't hit the brakes anymore unless you used a lot more force because you were trying to compress the mat as well.
Oh God, that's terrible.
Yeah. So if your mats are moving around, especially the driver's floor, that's a flag. You should stop and fix it. Like, don't continue to drive. Okay, so you would like the floor mats, you'd like the valances, what else?
Aside from that, not really much.
No seat covers.
Paint protection. I want to tell you something that happened once. We were driving to Goa. We were on the Renault Duster. Okay, Vanita and Sirhan are terrible. They are terrible to travel with.
Yeah, you said they're motion sickness.
Both of them, horrible. I mean, it's like the worst thing for me, right? So we have to stop invariably at least twice for either him or her to throw up. Now, this one time, we were almost at the hotel and Just before that, so I was like, oh, next thing, blah. We had no time to react, nothing on the rear seat. Guess what it took to clean it up?
Just take the seat covers out and wash them out.
Nothing. You just had to rinse it off. It was done. It was done. The materials are that much better today.
That's true.
It's not like, I'm sure if you're going to get like white seat covers, and a lot of cars now get light interiors. The Ignis has that light white panel on it, and I thought that would be a big pain. And sure, now it's almost 4 or 5 years old and it's not mint, but we're not bothering with it that much because it hasn't needed that much care.
So you don't need a seat cover is what you're saying?
I wouldn't. I mean, I would like to see how the seat is in the first place, because the seat cover itself will also affect the comfort level,
Right.
how the cushioning is working.
Of course.
So again, it will be a question of quality, right, of what seat covers you get. So the experience will change. So I would...
And as it is with these things, if it is a good quality seat cover, it will also be expensive.
Yeah.
Would you like a rear view mirror cover that is 95 times the size of the original?
Now you get the reversing camera add-ons for that.
No, you get one with plays YouTube also. You don't have to get a Zontes for it. You can just get that mirror and clip it into your car. But would do you think that all, like a really large mirror, etc., is worth it?
Those are signs of fear, right? Something's gonna happen. You just have to take 2 minutes more, and then you don't need that giant ass mirror, right? You just take the time, walk around the car. If you're not sure how much space you have, get out and look once more. Sorted. I mean, it's not rocket science.
The silicone cover for your key fob.
Oh God, why are you doing this?
No, I'm kidding. Okay, on the motorcycles, I think I would add one more thing. If you're buying a motorcycle with upside down forks, where the oil is suspended above and the seal is below, I would like to get myself a set of fork seal covers. I prefer Krieger's. They're not expensive, $1,700 from Lazy Ass Bikers. But Big Bad Bikes has Seal Savers, which is another brand that does the same job. And because these two companies have been doing it for a long time, Amazon will be full of a whole bunch of Chinese copies of the same stuff. Buy original if you can, but buy something for sure. And I like to cover my forks up right in the showroom before I head out, before the dust can fall on the stanchion. And the reason for that is if there's dust or say a dead bug which is crusted over anything that is going past the dust seal and then past the oil seal, it can slowly cut it up. And that's where usually the leak on an upside down fork comes from. To give you an example of how effective it is, my KTM has never had an upside down fork leak at all. And it's a 2013 or 14 model, and it's now at, I think, 30,000 kilometers. After that, the Ducati came, 55,000 kilometers, no leaks. The 210 came with a leak. We fixed it, put the fork seal cover on, no leaks ever since. So my experience is it works 100% by simply not allowing dirt and grime to fall on the part of the stanchion that does most of the traveling past the seal part.
Okay.
I don't care what brand you use, but get them from day one. If you have a right side up fork, you don't really need all of this stuff.
Okay, more complicated things. TPMS.
It's a cost thing. Okay, I tried this company called Senseri, which is an Indian company. It's $2,500. And it worked for about 3 days brilliantly. And then it just stopped working completely. So for those 3 days, I thought it was a brilliant addition to my motorcycle. It was Bluetooth, right? And offline. So you'd walk up to the motorcycle, take out your phone, and you get your tire pressure readings, and they were accurate. So I thought it was a good thing, but it didn't work. But there are other people online who'll tell you the Senseri system works really well. And they have internal mount and external mounts both.
Right.
Internal mounts are harder to steal. External mounts are easier to steal, obviously. But again, externals are harder to fill because you have to take off the cap and it has an anti-theft nut. It gets complicated. On the Ducati, I did spend the money on adding a TPMS back. And I did something stupid. I said, how much is it? They said 13. I said, let's order a set. And it was 13 for each wheel.
Oh, nice.
So when it came and it was 26 or 27K, something like that, I had budgeted. So it was not out of cash and I was not sweating. But I was like, oh my God, I should have thought of this. It's one TPMS each and they activate individually. It's not a set, which is a little bit stupid on Ducati's part also. I know why they did it, because if you break a wheel, you can order one TPMS unit. But I think more people will order a set together than try to order one at a time. So I don't think that it makes too much sense. But yeah, I would like to have a TPMS. What I do daily on my Ducati now is when I start rolling out, it takes about 2 kilometers for the readings to start coming. I just scroll down once and at some point I'll glance down. And if I see 2.5 bar, 3.1 bar, I know that.
So the factory fit system works well.
It's designed to. The Ducati system also, I think, has one of those shaky things that charges the battery while it is shaking. So they give you a 10-year battery, whereas most systems give you a 1-year battery. But to me, just the confirmation that I can look up my tire pressures along the way somewhere and just see that I'm in the zone, I think is a helpful thing to do.
Okay.
With EVs, it is more critical than ever because you never go to a petrol pump as you would with an ICE. So I have seen all test vehicle EVs come with totally terrible tire pressures on a regular basis, and I can see why. Because nobody has a thing that they do which leads to a place where there's a tire pump normally.
Correct. And while, of course, you could also add this on to your car, I think it's an important and a really useful upgrade for a motorcycle, especially if you're going up in terms of the performance graph, because the tire pressure variation can have a huge impact on your experience and also from a safety standpoint. If you get a warning that pressures are dropping on a motorcycle, it can mean easily stopping over at a puncture wala to get it checked out.
Before you get stranded by it,
Yeah, instead of having to push it for kilometers later on. Whereas in a car, if you get one puncture, sure, you can just
if you have
stop and
tube
switch.
tires, though, just don't bother, right? Because when that warning goes off, you're already in trouble.
You're done. Yeah. So tubeless tires.
To me, it's not an essential accessory. It's not something that I would definitely spend on. But if it was falling within a reasonable budget versus the price of the motorcycle, yes, it's something that I would like to do.
Okay.
Right? If the Senseri system had worked, I would want it on my Duke for sure.
Now, cars generally either come with, they do come with a spare tire and puncture repair kits also now. Do you carry a puncture repair kit?
On tour, yes. Constantly on the motorcycle, no. Again, the Ducati is quite...
But it's easy to pack under the seat. Any reason?
Yeah. See, the Ducati comes with a packable kit, which is 99% of the toolkit you get with the Ducati. So I see it there. But do I have a tire incident so often that I think that bag is essential to me having it on board? In the city, no, not ever.
Okay. There you go. So if you're touring,
makes sense. If I were outside the city, would I rely on the packaged kit, which has the CO2 cartridges and all of that kind of thing? No, it's just easier to carry a pump and buy a like 150 rupee puncture repair kit. You know, it's like the cheap one. It usually has brands like Rakesh and Shivam or something like that. You know, the pouch, but the puncture kit remains with the stickies. So I would do that. Would I do it in the city? No, there's enough puncture walas. And the hassle of carrying it around constantly is more than just stopping at a puncture wala and saying, I think I have a puncture, just fix it. Tube tires will run out, but tubeless tires just will take you there. It's fine. So again, these are not to me essential acquisitions. These are in-time acquisitions. So to me, grip, I would like to have some. If it's a really expensive motorcycle, maybe crash protection is essential. If it's a cheap motorcycle, I wouldn't bother. I would never put a seat cover. Not until the cat has come and completely scratched up my seat would I actually bother with a seat cover. And even then, I'd probably go to a seat guy and just ask him to replace the fabric rather than put a seat cover on it. It's not cold enough for sheepskin, so I would never have the fuzzy or the carpet seat covers. This is not my scene.
The 3D mesh ones.
No, none of this is required. Upside down, folks, I would definitely cover the stanchions up. It does seem to help. I used to have a cover for the rear shock as well, which I would use only in the rains. But then I stopped using it.
You have a sock on your brake fluid reservoir.
It's not essential. It's a good idea.
Why?
It's a good idea because brake fluid is corrosive. And if you ride hard, you can boil the brake fluid out of the master cylinder. And if it starts to fall on body parts, then it will leave stains behind. And that sock, or actually it's like a sweatband, its job is to just stop that from happening. It has no other job. In India, they turn dirty colors of brown in all sorts of weird shades.
I thought it was there just to look cute.
No. They do serve us. See, if you notice the Ducatis that used to have like the metal master cylinder, whenever you're out in a parking lot, some of the older ones have metal master cylinders. Notice them carefully, you'll realize they all have corrosion around the edges. You know why? So it turns out that Brembo ships them filled units, where brake fluid, everything is ready. So you bolt it on and it's ready to go. But if you ship it and there's air in the mechanism, then when you ship it and it turns upside down, then the air is in the wrong place in the system. So it won't work the first time you hit the brake. So Brembo actually fills it to full. So there's no air in the system. So the first time you ride it and and the fluid starts to heat up, it has nowhere to go but out.
Oh, really?
So the first time you use it, you'll get a little bit of corrosion because the brake fluid left and corroded the paint around the gasket. So the trick with the metal master cylinder is when it's new and it's that kind of full, you actually open it in the showroom, take a syringe and get a little bit of the brake fluid out. create a little bit of
Is this an
airspace.
older? Yeah.
Older.
Because I
Now
don't
they have
thi-
plastics and there's a gap on top. It doesn't seem to affect it much.
Because I think now they have the rubber kind of seat on the inside of the cap, which kind of
Yes, I
balances
didn't know
pressure.
this. I asked this to somebody along the way, and they said, no, the corrosion is there for a reason. It's because of how Brembo ships the systems or used to ship the systems out. And that's
Okay.
why the corrosion used to be there. So that's why that sock is there. It's why all the race bikes have it too, because they're clearly raising the temperature of the fluid really high. So the chances that it'll come out corrosive falls on bodywork. Problem number one falls on you. Problem number two falls on the tire. Huge problem. It just prevents all of that by having a cover around it. That's it.
Radiator guards and stuff like
Radiator guards are essential.
that. All right.
We do kick up stones all the time. It's how our roads are.
Right.
So I would definitely want something between the radiator fins and whatever's coming off the front tire. You know, if you go to IKEA in Europe, you get this plastic mesh that is used to prevent leaves from falling into the rain gutters.
Okay.
You don't get it here, unfortunately. But it makes a great dirt cheap radiator guard. You just take it and you zip tie the four edges and you're done, because that mesh is enough to prevent 90% of the work.
Okay.
Here you will have to end up with a metal mesh of some sort. Don't get the ones that have the holes are too small, because it blocks substantial airflow in a hot country. Always a terrible idea. But you just want some mesh there to protect small debris from going through the fins. That's it.
Okay. The one accessory that I would recommend to a lot of people, because if you travel a lot and you're living out of your car very often, then a small portable vacuum cleaner is really useful, because it's just so easy to get the car spick and span again without too much effort after a drive, after, like typically when you go for weekend trips or whatever, it tends to become a mess. And with a child around, it's easy to get a lot of dust and dirt in. So it's super quick to clean up. So that is handy. And nowadays you get pretty cool ones, which also double up as inflators and have pressure sensors and all of that. So it's pretty handy. Yeah.
Can you use them as a thing to charge other electric vehicles with, like on the Ioniq 5? No. Okay. The only thing I would add here for motorcycles is I like to do something which seems to do outsized better job of keeping the motorcycle clean and nice, which is at the end of the rains, when the biggest part of the mucky season is over, just get it detailed once. And the detail is not for the chemicals they'll use or the shiny coatings that they will use. It's because you're effectively paying a guy to sit down with a fine toothbrush and clean every part of the motorcycle out and make sure that there is no corrosives left anywhere inside, under the belly pan, inside the belly pan, etc., etc. I like to do this at the end of the rain every year. So during the rains, do I wash the bikes regularly? Not too much. Do I clean them? Yeah. Not like being super careful about it. But at the end of the rains, each bike goes in, spends a day, gets cleaned thoroughly and comes out. And then for the rest of the year, I don't think about it.
Okay. Cool. So where have we gotten till?
Okay, so what's the biggest bullshit accessory that you'll get in a showroom that you should always say no to?
Always say no to. Yeah, I think coatings, I generally just say I'll pass.
Yeah.
Like even on the Busa, I didn't. Even though there's one friend of mine who's super anal about having the vehicle look spick and span, and he's practically been pushing me, but it's been 3 years since, and I've just been like, nah, I'm okay. It's all right. I'm happy. So I look at all the scratches on the tank and I say, that's signs of use.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's not that I won't take care of the motorcycle, but this is something I'm willing to live
So
with.
Teflon, PPF, rubber, rust, all of this stuff is not needed.
I mean, I'm not their target market, clearly.
So me, if you were to ask me the same question, I'd say crash bars of all kinds. Just don't do it. You want to put engine protection, which is like a small rod that protects your case itself, which is deeply tucked into the motorcycle. Okay, fair. You have a very expensive motorcycle and you don't think you can afford the damage. Okay, yes. But, like build a house out of plumbing around your...
Cars, one thing that I would add, mud flaps.
Yeah.
The small, neat
But that
ones.
you'll get free when you're negotiating for the car's price, right? He'll throw in the mud
People
flaps.
might skip them saying, no, give me something else. Give me seat covers. I would say go for mud flaps over seat covers.
Sure.
That's about it. So what we're saying when it comes to accessories is you don't need to opt in as the default.
For literally anything.
Yeah. It is going to be a question of what your use case would be and to choose accordingly. Typically, what you're getting at the car showroom, most of those things you don't need unless you have consciously chosen to use an accessory instead of going for a variant higher. In which case, by all means, go ahead. But other than that, not much else to do with bikes or cars.
Yeah.
By default.
And the only other thing to remember as we close off is remember that everything you change can potentially affect your warranty. So you don't want to add anything without thinking it through. If the dealer is offering you, probably he will cover the warranty, even if the manufacturer says they won't. And usually that works out. But think this through, because if they splice a single wire somewhere, that's an excuse for a manufacturer to turn around and say, no, your warranty is no longer valid because you messed with the car. Changes of tires, changes of brake pads, all of these count towards that.
Correct.
So be super cautious about how you're changing the car during the warranty period.
Same thing for motorcycles.
Wow, I'm talking cars, you're talking motorcycles. I love it.
I was just thinking, what's going on? Anyways, that's a good note. Works. So guys, if you have any more ideas that you want us to address, any other questions, do let us know in the comments. It's fantastic. We'd love to get back to you with more conversations like this. And I know we were supposed to talk in-depth accessories, but let's treat this as the first of other accessory conversations.
You're going to do more of this?
I think there are other areas that people will come back to. Okay, if there are other questions that you have about accessories, do let us know. For instance, we never even got to luggage for motorcycles.
It's not essential. You can buy it later. It's fine.
But he wants to end this. Okay, guys, time to disconnect.